Hello and welcome to this special show, Mr. Vipin Anand. And I will have to start with the question that's top of the mind today with everybody in this country, which is the negative GDP growth of 23.9%. It's something that has once again spooked the entire country. All watchers of this specific indicator of our economy and virtually making everybody extremely pessimistic of what's going to come in the next 3 to 6 months.
Definitely, as you say, this is a question which is on the top of everybody's mind. But I think today, at this point in time, in the month of September, I think the situations are possibly very different from where they were at the close of Q1. If you remember, Q1, April was totally, absolutely washed out. May, there was hardly anything happening. It was only in June when we started making a comeback and the lockdown started getting opened in phases that the economy really started. So effectively, I think that this, when we are looking at this 23.9% degrowth in economy, it is essentially the GDP of only about 15 to 20 days and not of a whole quarter. Now, subsequently, what has happened is that there has been a very fast pickup, and most of the sectors of the economy have now started moving. And especially talking about the life insurance sector, I'm very happy to tell you that as on date, as on this day of September, we are at par with last year. In fact, there could possibly be a marginal growth which is there in our premium income. And I think sooner or later, this is going to reflect in the other sectors in the economy also. So I'm not so much worried about this 23.9% degrowth as it is come.
The finance minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, has talked about the pandemic situation, the force majeure, which has been interpreted as the act of God. And that has virtually become something with which people are mocking the handling of the economy at this point of time. I want to ask you, with the package for stimulating the economy that was announced by the government, by the finance ministry, with the kind of measures that have been announced, do you really think that a stimulus package is going to predict a pickup in the growth rates in the manufacturing sector, the medium and small scale sector? And that seems to be the core of the worry. There is, of course, a lot of political criticism that's come in. But do you think any other government could have handled this any differently? Are there other ways that could have been used to prop up the economy at a time when it was going through the lockdown during the initial part of the pandemic hitting India?
I am in total disagreement with the critics of the strategy which the government has taken. Because especially being from the life insurance industry, if I have to choose between lives and money, I would always choose lives. I think the priority at the point of time when this lockdown was brought down so severely was to save the lives of the people. And that is what has actually happened. If we look at the casualty rates in India, they are possibly in percentage wise one of the lowest which has come in these in the kind of sizes which we have. And it was a situation beyond anybody's control. Definitely, it was nothing of our own doing. And for an extraordinary, once in a century situation, extraordinary measures needed to be taken. And I think we must congratulate our government for doing what they had to do at that point of time. It would have been a tough decision for anybody. And I'm happy that the government did show the kind of toughness which was required at that time. Definitely, there are going to be far-reaching impacts of this. The economy has been impacted, but ultimately, you need people to run the factories. And factories by themselves cannot run. So today, we have a kind of confidence that the government has taken care of people. At this point of time, it may not be visible that the economy is moving at full speed. But people will come back to the factories, people will come back to other kind of manufacturing units. And maybe in a month or two, we will see these kind of results there also. There is going to be definitely a permanent loss of what has been lost in these 3 months. But I think this was inevitable. There was nothing which anybody could have been done about it. And I'm sure that the financial sector has started picking up. The farm sector has started picking up, and very soon the manufacturing sector will also start picking up. Though, of course, we cannot expect the kind of GDP growth which we would have liked to happen. There is definitely going to be a long-lasting impact of this situation. But I don't think there is anything better that the government or the finance minister could.
You haven't spoken about the financial stimulus of 20 lakh crore that the government pumped in to revive the economy. Do you think this was enough, number one? And number two, has it been effective so far?
Basically, the stimulus was meant to push the industry to go into an investment mode, to get a greater maybe manufacturing and other activities in force. Now, there is always a problem with this kind of a thing. I think the size of stimulus as of now was sufficient, and more when it is required, possibly it may come. But the main issue which is there is that unless the companies are comfortable with the idea that when they invest, when they come up with new projects, when they put more money into the current projects, they are going to be able to have a market and produce the kind of returns which are expected, to bear the cost of investment also. It's not really moved. In fact, we have seen earlier also that with the reduction in interest rates also, things did not move very fast. I think what is required besides the stimulus is convincing people, convincing the corporates that if they invest, they are going to be able to come up with the figures which they would like to see on their balance sheet. It is necessary to convince the public that most of the financial crisis is now behind us. The uncertainty is mostly behind us. And if they spend the money which is in their bank accounts, which is in their pockets, which is the cash which they have taken out and kept in the houses, I think things will start moving much faster. There seems to be more of a psychological blockage rather than a financial problem at this point of time. If you see, the banks are flush with money. The kind of liquidity which is there in the system, in spite of everything, you see the way the stock market is moving. I really don't feel that the problem is there. The problem lies maybe more on the psychological front, which needs to be effectively tackled.
So, Mr. Vipin Anand, do you think the former finance minister, Mr. P. Chidambaram, is wrong when he says that we are in a catch-22 situation? We locked down when the numbers were low, and we've started the unlocking of the economy, and we've seen a second explosion in the numbers. We've crossed the Brazil number of 4 million, and he predicts that by the 20th of September, we would have crossed 6.5 million, 6.5 lakh people infected.
Navika, I am not an economist, so I think I am not competent to comment on the statement of the ex-finance minister. As with my limited understanding, what I feel is that we went in through a harsh lockdown when we did not know what is it that we are facing. We were not prepared for facing it. Today, after the kind of situation we have gone through, I think we are better prepared to face the health situation which is upon us. The people are also, they have today much more information, which was the most critical aspect of the entire thing. And the hospitals and the other facilities are also ready to face the kind of situation which is upon us. That is one point. I think this is not commenting on the health issue part of it, that the lockdown came when it was required, when we were unprepared. Today, it is being opened when we are better prepared and we know how to handle it. And we have also seen what has been happening over the rest of the world. So, uh, this is one thing. And the second part of this issue, coming to the numbers, I feel any numbers which are being brought forward, nobody can say with certainty that it is as it is. Because unless you have tested the entire population, which is well near impossible, you can never know what is the total health impact of this situation. And if we see large number, a very major thing behind is also that because you are getting more tests done today. Initially, there were hardly any tests happening. Today, if you are testing 11 lakh people in a day, I think that is a big step forward. And considering that, if we even look at the number of casualties which are happening, I think that compared to world standards, our performance has been better on that front. The numbers will be large because we are today possibly the largest population in the world. We are almost at par with China now. So considering that, I think these kind of numbers we have to be ready to see.
Mr. Anand, with the economy's downturn, consumption is down by 26.7% and investment is down by about 47.1%. How is that going to impact the insurance market? Because you mentioned that there is a psychological problem, and it is true that either people have lost jobs or many of them have lost a part of their salaries or have seen salary cuts. Is that going to have a long-term impact on the insurance market itself?
You see, if you look at the entire economy, definitely there is going to be impact. I'm not talking about insurance market right now. Looking at the entire economy, people losing job, manufacturing stopping altogether for almost 2 months, all other kind of trade activities getting hampered. Uh, I think the airline and the travel industry as well as the hospitality industry totally getting locked down. There is definitely going to be less money to spread around. There is no doubt about that. But insurance is something which is different in that manner. One of the major impacts which the coronavirus situation has had on insurance is that it has heightened the awareness level of the public. And today, people definitely feel that there is an urgent need for taking out an insurance cover. Not only life insurance cover, maybe the kind of business insurances and other things which are there, that also. So this greater awareness definitely helps us in our business. That is going to be there. In fact, like I have mentioned earlier, today insurance has become a primary need. Food, clothing, shelter. Today, clothing has taken a backseat. I think the luxury clothing industry possibly is one of the first hit, because at home you don't need all those kind of dresses which would be coming with that. So these are industries where there is going to be a long-term impact. But when insurance has been brought to the forefront, when it has come to the forefront due to the current circumstances, I think people are as willing to spend money on insurance as they are on food. I don't think there has been any drop in the cost of food. And similarly, I don't think there is going to be any negative impact on the insurance industry in the long term.
Mr. Vipin, Anand, there has been another tendency of the government now in recent times to depend more on LIC as the lender of the last resort rather than RBI. You've been made to pick up stakes in several public sector banks like IDBI, companies. And if you look at the value of these investments, in recent times, the valuations have taken a hit. Do you think LIC is going to be losing value if the government continues to treat the funds of LICs for bailing out public sector undertakings in the manner that we've seen recently?
Navika, I have an entirely different view in this whole thing. If you look at the investment alone, LIC's total income in the last year was in excess of 6 lakh crores. If I do not invest in government, where I'm going to take this money? It is not the government which is compelling us to invest in government bonds or in certain PSUs or banks or whatever. It is also the market which is there. Today, if you see the total economy, a large share of it is based on the government expenditure, for which the government needs to raise money. And I need long-term safe investments which come through only government bonds. So G6 have to be a preferred investment for any insurance company, even worldwide. That is what happens. The other thing is that when we look at PSUs and public sector banks as a whole, if you look at their weight in the Sensex, whether it is BSE or whether it is NSE, I don't think we are invested more in PSUs than their proportionate weight in Sensex, because that is the market. They are an integral part of the Indian corporate structure. Since we started with a totally nationalized economy, where a large part of the enterprises were started by the government only, that is the kind of situation we have in the country. So if I don't invest in banks, if I don't invest in public sector enterprises, where do I invest the money? And if you look at the performance of the many of the public sector today is better than many of the private sector. And it is true on both the sides. There are private sector companies who are performing much better than public sector, and there are public sector companies which are performing much better than the private sector. So this public-private sector debate which happens in this country from time to time, I'm not very sure that it is a reality. The reality is that public sector is it's a very big part of the economy of the country, and definitely they need investment, and we need opportunities for investment. We have invested hugely in public sector in the past, and we have made a lot of money out of it. I'm absolutely not apologetic about investing in the public sector. And definitely, it is our own investment decision when we invest in any of these companies. It is done after proper due diligence, taking care of the prospects of the companies. And it is not a government prompted decision. Let us be very clear about that. What is happening is that in public sector also, there are options. You will also see there are times when we do not invest in many of the public sector issues. And then we get questioned that why we kept away from this. But then that also shows that we are not all the time there. Our decisions are business decisions, because finally we are answerable to our policyholders. They have reasonable expectations, which we need to fulfill. And it cannot happen if we act only as an arm of the government. We are, even though we may be 100% owned by the government, but let me assure you and your viewers that we are totally independent in our decision making, whether it is how we run the company or how we make the investments. I absolutely feel that whatever investments we are making, one difference which is there is that since our liabilities lie over a period of 10, 20, 30, 40 years, even today with annuity policies, they may go up to 50, 60 years also. So I need investments which have a long-term horizon. And for many of the private companies, maybe that cannot be said. I don't know which company is going to exist after 50 years. The government is definitely going to exist. So that does give me a sense of comfort.
So, Mr. Anand, how do you think the economy is going to be looking over the next 6 to 12 months? And how do you see the financial sector, especially the prospects of your company, LIC, going forward?
I feel that overall, the economy is gradually going to come back. It is going to take time, like you said, 3 to 6 months. I think at least 6 months it will take to come back to the original speed. And during this period of 9 months, which we would have lost, there are going to be losses. There is no doubt about that. As far as the financial sector is concerned, in the lending sector, there is going to be pain. Of course, we have tried to lessen it by giving moratorium, and then now that RBI has allowed for restructuring, I do hope that at the end, the NPAs are going to be manageable, but definitely they are going to be there, and it is going to impact the entire economy. But I do hope that when we close this financial year, the damage would have been controlled to a very large extent. Again, there are going to be isolated sector in the economy which are possibly going to do well. Maybe we have already seen retail, something is there, FMCG might pick up, pharma is there, insurance, of course, is there. Then IT could possibly end up the year with some kind of gains. But definitely, since there are going to be, because of the large scale disruption which has happened, definitely there is going to be loss at the end of the year. I don't think anybody can deny that kind of situation. But I am optimistic in this regard that the way we have seen things moving, especially in the last 2 months, I think we are bouncing back very fast. And we will be able to control the damage to a very large extent. On the other hand, if we look at intangible situations, I think the management lessons we have learned through this, the business process continuity revisions which have happened during this period, the business process re-engineering which has happened during this period, I think in the long run, if you look at a period of even, let us say, 3 to 5 years, it is going to make up for all the losses which would have happened in this temporary phase. It will possibly push the development of technology and processes at a much faster pace than it would have happened in a normal kind of a situation. There are going to be temporary losses, but in the long term, I am hopeful that this will push India towards becoming a developed country faster once this initial pain of maybe 1 or 2 years is over.
Well, on that note, we do hope that there are better days and happier days around the corner. And yes, it's going to be a little bit of pain more that we will have to bear. And as you said, 9 months lost are 9 months lost. And that's a reality we'll have to live with. But we hope we bounce back. We hope we see the sun through the clouds, because clearly India is resilient, Indian people are resilient, and we do hope at this point in time that we do bounce back into the pink of health. Thank you very much, Mr. Vipin Anand, for joining me on this special show of India Revival Mission Dialogues.
Thank you, Navika, for inviting me. And let me assure you, LIC is always there for you. We were always looking upwards only. Thank you.